नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। नारायणं नमस्कृत्यं नरं चैव नरोत्तमं देवीं सरस्वतीं व्यासं ततो जायमुदीरये। शृण्वातं स्वकथा कृष्ण पुण्यश्रवणकीर्तनः हृदयन्तस्ते बाधानि विधुनोति सुरिशतम्। नष्टप्रायेषु अभद्रेषु नित्यं भगवत सेवया भगवती उत्तम श्लोके भक्तिर्भाविति नैष्टिकी। Hare Krishna everyone. So today's chapter, Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 4, chapter 29, and verse 53 and 54, talks between Narada and King Prachinabaris. Text 53. क्षुदं चरम सुमना संसरणे मित्वा रक्तं सदङ्घ्रिः गणसामसु लुब्धकर्णम् अग्रे ब्रुकान् असुतृपो विगनाय यान्तं पृष्ठे मृगय लुब्धकवनवीनम्. Translation by Divine Grace Srila Prabhupada, Prabhupada ki Jai. My dear king, please search out the deer who is engaged in eating grass in a very nice flower garden along with his wife. The deer is very much attached to his business and he is enjoying the sweet uh, singing of the bumblebees in this garden. Just try to understand his position. He is unaware that before him is a tiger, which is accustomed to living at the cost of another's flesh. Behind the deer is a hunter who is threatening to pierce him with sharp arrows. Thus, the deer's death is imminent. Purport: here is an here is an allegory in which the king is advised to find a deer that is always in a dangerous position. Although threatened from all sides, the deer simply eats grass in a nice flower garden, unaware of the danger of all around him. The living entities, especially human beings, think themselves very happy in the midst of families, as if living in a flower garden and hearing the sweet humming of bumblebees. Everyone is centered around his wife, who is the beauty of the family life. The bumblebees humming may be compared to the talk of children. The human being, just like the deer, enjoys his family without knowing that before him is the factor of time, which is represented by the tiger. The fruitive activities of a living entity simply create another dangerous position and oblige him to accept different types of bodies. For a deer to run after a mirage of water in a desert is not unusual. The deer is also very fond of sex. The conclusion is that one who lives like a deer will be killed in the due course of time. Vedic literatures therefore advise that we should understand our constitutional position and take to devotional service before death comes. According to the Bhagavatam 11:9-29, लब्धा सदुर्लभम् इदं बहु संभवान्ते मानुष्यम् अर्थदम् अनित्यम् अपीह धीरः तूर्णं यतेत न पतेत अनुमृत्यु यावन् निःश्रेयसाय विषयाः खलौ सर्वतः स्यात्. After many births, we have attained this human form. Therefore, before death comes, we should engage ourselves in the transcendental loving service of the Lord. That is the fulfillment of human life. Verse 54. Sumanaha samadharmamanam स्त्रीणां शरणा आश्रमे पुष्पमधु गन्धवात् क्षुद्रात्मां काम्यकर्म विपाकजं कामसुखलभं जै जैभ्योपस्त्यादि विचिन्वतां मिथुनि निभूय तद् अभिनिवेशिता मनसम् सदङ्घ्रिगणसाम गीतावद् अतिमनोहर वनितादि जलाल पेशो अतिरम् अतिप्रलोभितकर्णम् अग्रे ब्रह्मयूथवद् आत्मन ब्रूकयूथावद् आत्मना आयुर्हरतो होरातं तान्काललाव विशेषान् अभिगणय्य गृहेषु विहरन्तं पृष्ठ पृष्ठत एव परोक्षम् अनुप्रवृतो लुब् लुब्धकः कृतान्तन्तः शरेण यम इह पराभिध्यति तम इमम् आत्मनम् अहोराजन् धिना हृदयं द्रष्टुम्. Translation. My dear king, woman who is very attractive in the beginning, but in the end very disturbing, is exactly like the flower, which is attractive in the beginning and detestable at the end. With woman, the living entity is entangled with lusty desires and he enjoys sex. Just as one enjoys the aroma of the flower, he thus enjoys a life of sense gratification from his tongue to his genitals. And in this way, the living entity considers himself very happy in the family life. United with his wife, he always remains absorbed in such thoughts. He feels great pleasure in hearing the talks of his wife and children, which are like the sweet humming of bumblebees that collects honey from flowers to flower. He forgets that before him is time, which is taking away his lifespan with the passing of day and night. He does not see the gradual diminishing of his life, nor does he care about the superintendent of the dead who is trying to kill him from behind. Just try to understand this. You are in a precarious position and are threatened from all the sides. Purport. Materialistic life means forgetting one's constitutional position as the eternal servant of Krishna, and this forgetfulness is especially enhanced in the Grihastha ashram. In the Grihastha ashram, a young man accepts a young wife who is very beautiful in the beginning. But in the due course of time, after giving birth to many children and becoming older and older, she demands many things from the husband to maintain the entire family. At such a time, the wife becomes detestable to the very man who accepted her in her younger days. One becomes attached to the Grihastha ashram for two reasons only. The wife cooks palatable dishes for the satisfaction of her husband's tongue, and she gives him sexual pleasure at night. A person attached to Grihastha ashram is always thinking of these two things, palatable food and sex enjoyment. The talks of the wife, which are enjoyed as a family recreation, and the talks of children both attract the living entity. He thus forgets that he has to die someday and has to prepare for the next life if he wants to be put into a congenial body. The deer in the flower garden is an allegory used by the great sage Narada to put out to the king that the king himself is similarly entrapped by such surroundings. Actually, everyone is surrounded by such a family life, which misleads one. The living entity thus forgets that he has to return home back to Godhead. He simply becomes entangled in family life. Prahlad Maharaj has therefore hinted हित्वात् हित्वात्मपातं गृहम् अन्धकूपं वनं गतो यत् धरिम् आश्रयत. Family life is considered a blind well, andhakupam, into which a person falls and dies without help. Prahlad Maharaj recommends that while one's senses are there and one is strong enough, He should abandon the Grihastha ashram and take shelter of the lotus feet of the Lord, going to the forest of Vrindavan. According to Vedic civilization, one has to give up family life at a certain age, the age of 50, take banafasta, and eventually remain alone as a sannyasi. That is prescribed method of Vedic civilization known as known as Varnasrama Dharma. When one takes sannyasa after enjoying family life, he pleases the Supreme Lord Vishnu. One has to understand one's position in the family or world life. This is called intelligence. One should not remain always trapped in family life to satisfy his tongue and genitals in association with a wife. In such a way, one simply spoils his life. According to Vedic civilization, it is imperative to give up the family at a certain stage by force if necessary. Unfortunately, so-called followers of Vedic life do not give up their family even at the end of life, unless they are forced by death. There should be through there should be through overhauling of the social system and society should revert to the Vedic principle, that is the four varnas and the four ashrams. नमो विष्णुपदाय कृष्णपृष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदांत स्वामी के नवीन नमस्ते सरस्वती गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्य देश तारिणे जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवास आदि गौर भक्त वृंद हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे. Hare Krishna everyone. Thanks for joining and giving me the opportunity to speak on this verse of Srimad Bhagavatam. So we are talking about the conversation between uh, the great sage Narada and the king Prachina Varisat. So King Prachina Varisat, as you know, sent his sons, the Prachetas, for the austerities, to perform the austerities, and so he told his sons, you have to perform the austerities and satisfy and just like control your mind and senses, and then after you can come back to the kingdom and rule this kingdom, and then you have to get married. So that was his intention. So he sent his sons to perform the austerities, but what he did so much karma kanda that the whole earth was filling with the kusa grasses. So the king, Prachina Varisat, wanted to attend the heavenly planet. That's why he did so much animal sacrifices. So King Prachina Varisat was so much entangled in material sense gratification that so Narada Muni when came and see the condition of the king, and as you know, in the previous ages, the great says Narada already been what's called the enlightened the many kings in the dynasty of the king Prachinavarisa, right? So 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 what happened? So when Narada Muni saw the condition of the king Prachinavarisa, so the king was not ready to accept the spiritual knowledge, but also he thought, you know, uh, that's why he came up with an idea to teach the king in a story which is basically the allegorical stories, so that the king can get the essence of the story and eventually he'll get elevated. That's the intention of the king, that intention of the great sage Narada Muni. So in Vishnu Puran, it is stated that those are engaged in sense gratification, he will then that same materialistic person will never be interested in the Vishnu Aradhana. If you will ask someone to or will try to preach or give some advice or to chant or read Bhagavad Gita, a common response from a materialistic person will get is like the person who said that I don't have much time because I'm so much busy in office and work and life, and the family life, I have son, blah blah blah. But the same person, if someone invited for the material sense enjoyment, he is always ready, which means that he doesn't have ruchi in the bhakti, right? So Prabhupada gave an example, you know, Prabhupada gave an example of a horse. So what happened? Have you seen a horse? If the horse is like fallen sick, So someone has to give the medicine to the horse, right? To give the medicine to a horse, at least six people are required. Why? Because four will hold the four legs of the horse, and one will open the mouth, and then the sixth person will put the medicine in the mouth of the horse, right? Similarly, if you teach a materialistic person, we need so much effort, okay, to please a materialistic person because he is not ruchi in the bhakti. So, so a materialist person is like that, and it's very difficult to bring him in the Krishna consciousness. So that deer is very much attached, to his business, like the living entity, and he is enjoying the sweet singing of the bumblebees in his garden. He is surrounded by, but he doesn't know he is surrounded by the tiger and the hunter with his, the hunter's arrows. He is directing towards the deer, and so the deer is still busy in enjoying the material life. And Lord Krishna in Bhagavad Gita 10.34, Mrityuh Sarva Harashaham means the Lord mentioned that I am the all devouring death. If anyone just focus on his whole life, how to earn money and save bank balances, then he is just a number one fool. Lord will take everything at the time of death. As time passes by, a devotee goes one step closer to Lord Krishna or to the spiritual world. But at the same time, the materialistic person goes one step closer to the death personality, Yamaraj. So, Lord is so merciful. Once the living entity make a sambandha or attachment to the Lord, then the Lord will never forget him. So, as you know, the example of King, Muchukunda, right? So, what happened in the Muchukunda? So, Muchukunda, he was fighting in the with the demons uh, for the for the side of the devas, right? The devatas. So, after so many years of fighting, he got exhausted, and the devatas asked to give any boons. So he said, I have not slept for many days, so please give me a boon so that I can sleep nicely for some days. So then he came to the, a kind of, as you know, the story, so he came to a kind of a mountain area, and in a cave he was sleeping, and then there is the Lord Krishna came, and so Lord Krishna was came there, and so wake him up the Muchukanda and gave him the darshan. You know why? Because Muchukanda in his previous life, he did perform the austerities to please the Supreme Lord Krishna. That's why, even though the soul, the Muchukanda, is still sleeping, in his sleeping, but Lord Krishna is so merciful, he came and woke him up and gave him darshan. So that's the Lord. Means, which what does it mean? Once you make a sambandha or attachment to the Lord, so Lord will take care of everything. We don't have to worry. So, so the important point is that we have to make a sambandha with the Lord. So, uh, uh, so that there is one more example is that, so a rich man's son or a crorepati's son eventually will be a crorepati, but there is a condition. So that the same person has to, or the same boy, the same small boy, the boy of the his father is very rich or crorepati, he has to follow the footstep of his father, or he has to be obedient to his father's order. Then after he is eligible to be crorepati, automatically crorepati. Similarly, when we have a attachment to the Lord, because the Lord is Lord is full of opulence. So when you have make a someone with the Lord, so eventually you are be opulent. You are be get the you will get the good qualities, and you'll be opulent eventually. So whenever we are in the distress, we should not do chintan. This is what happened to me. This is going to what happened to me. So many thoughts came to our mind, but instead of that, what we should do, instead of chintan, we should do kirtan to Lord Hari, and remember the name of the Lord Hari. So what will happen? So what will happen if you do kirtan? The Lord will guide us to overcome the situations, which means each and every situation we will do the kirtan. So I'll give an example. So what happens when a boy, goes to a hospital with his mother, and he get an injection. At that time, he was sitting on the lap of his mother's womb. Sorry, he was sitting in the lap of his mother. And that same time, the boy could not feel anything because the doctor gave him the injections. The boy could not feel any pain because he was sitting in the lap of his mother. But just imagine if the boy is going to take the injections alone, so he'll feel severe pain, severe anxiety. Similarly, whenever we are in a situation of distress, whenever we take the shelter of the lotus feet, we will feel safe, which means the pain will be there, but the pain will not feel that pain because the Lord will, give that mercy to overcome that pain. Okay, so that's very important. So let me summarize this what we discussed all about. So this verse specifically represents the deer. The deer represents the embodied soul engrossed in satisfying the senses in the material world, and the nice flower garden represents household life and materialistic material attachment, which seem pleasant and provide temporary enjoyment. The wife and singing bumblebees represents the attraction of the family life and the sweet, but ultimately distracting, And the tiger in the front represents the imminent death, which can strike at any point of time. The hunter behind the arrows represents the time and its associated miseries and threats perpetually moving closer. So, and um, so then we talk about in the chapter 54 the illusion of the attachment, right? So the family life, the Grihastha ashram is described as a blind well, andhakupam, into which a person falls trapped by affection and lost desires. Association with the wife and children is compared to enjoying the aroma of the flower, initially attractive, but ultimately a source of entanglement that leads one to forget their real position. He forget that his goal is to go back onto the Godhead. So then the passing of time represents the living entity becomes so absorbed in the sweet humming talks of the family that they forget about the passage of time day and night, which gradually diminishing their lifespan. Then the goal of human life, the core message is that one must not remain perpetually trapped in the family life merely to satisfy the senses, especially the tongue and genitals. The purpose of human life is to understand one's true position and prepare for the next life, eventually returning home back to Godhead. And similarly, also mentioned that according to Vedic civilization, Varnashram Dharma, it is imperative to give up the family life at a certain age, typically around 50, and then take Vanaprastha, retire life, and eventually sannyasa, the renounced of life. So focus wholly on spiritual realization. With this note, I'll stop here. Bancha kalpatarivesya kripa sindhu bhayavacha patitanam pavaneva vaishnava namo namo. Hari Bol, Hare Krishna, Jai Jagannath.
Thank you very
Thank
much
you very
for
much.
that,
Thank you
Sumant.
for